Greetings and salutations, everybody. It's Lee Foster here of Revitalise, connecting people, and welcome to the next episode of Revitalise Meets, where I get the opportunity to meet powerful connections from across the globe and really delve into their story, find out what makes them tick, and also identify their top golden nuggets from their industry that can share advice with you, all of you lovely people out there today, online and listening to us on LinkedIn or on our YouTube channel on Revitalise Connecting People. So don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel for Revitalise and stay informed with what's going on LinkedIn Live as well. Now, today we've got a wonderful gentleman with us. He's been helping many people by really tapping into their mental health, finding the gap, looking at the bridge and supporting them throughout their journeys and taking them through some areas that really helps them open up their lives and really shines a light on what their positivity is in their business and personally. Can you please welcome with me today, business owner of Worth Talking, podcast entrepreneur, the one and only Mr. Simon Worth from Worth Talking. Simon, how are you today?
I'm really good, thanks, Lee. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for the introduction.
You are more than welcome, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come along and join us as well. So,
pleasure, absolute pleasure.
So let's start from the beginning. What I like to do in this little chat is really to find out about a little bit about your business journey so far, you know, where you've came from and how did you come to be in the place of Worth Talking? Would you mind sharing that with us all?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background career-wise was in sales and business development and working in renewable energy, IT sectors, telecoms. But what I found was the part of that I really enjoyed was relationship building. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't so much the sales per se and the commission or anything like that. It was actually what I enjoyed was meeting people, building relationships, building that trust. So that was the part of that I really enjoyed. And as I sort of progressed in my career, I was frequently being told off for being an agony uncle to other members of staff and people I was managing. And, you know, you're here to manage them, you're not here to listen to their problems. But it was just something that I always felt very strongly about, was helping people get the best out of themselves. And sometimes to do that, it helps for people to have an ear, you know, helps people to have somebody to talk to. And then also I played rugby to a very low, poor standard as a player. And as my kids got a certain age, I started coaching rugby, and I really embraced that. It was a real kind of light bulb moment of wow, this is amazing. You know, I want to do this all the time. And it was yeah, and I coached kids all the way through from sort of 7 years of age up to 18 and sort of county level boys and girls, and absolutely loved it. And it was never about the kind of winning the matches, winning tournaments that really gave me those goosebump moments. It was when you sort of work with a player had no confidence, you know, and all of a sudden they built that confidence to make that first tackle or score their first try. You know, those were the well, I've got goosebumps now thinking about it, but those were the real kind of, you know, moments. And yeah, and then went through a number of changes and challenges in my own life. One of those was getting divorced. Also lost my father. Got made redundant at work, so there was a holy trinity there of some things, and got myself to a really low point. And very fortunately for me, there was a chap I used to play rugby with, a guy called Tim Anstis, who was a coach, and he helped me, gave up his time, helped me get back on my feet, and you know, rather than trying to fix the old life, trying to build a new one. And that was something that resonated with me, and it was something that I wanted to do, and felt really passionately about helping people rebuild their lives or create the life that they do want to live. You know, I think so many of us get to a point we think, how do we get here? And but it's never too late. You know, it's never too late to change, and things can always get better. And so helping people, you know, at those sorts of points in their life, I just found that so motivating, so inspiring, and that sort of took me from feeling like a bit of a square peg in a round hole in my sales and business development career into oh, sorry, I lost the screen there. I don't know what happened. Went blank. Yeah, so yeah, as I say, it took me from feeling like a bit of a square peg in a round hole to absolutely this is what I was meant to do, and the sort of the pleasure and the satisfaction from working with people, and it doesn't matter whether they're trying to build a business, achieve something in their personal life, something in sport, or whether they're trying to overcome depression or struggles with well-being. The fundamentals are the same, and you work on the individual and you build that solid foundation. And so yeah, that's taken me to where I am now. So started my business in 2018. And so yeah, 5 years, crikey, 5 years I've been doing this. And so yeah, so it's been brilliant. I'm still learning all the time, and I think that kind of knowledge, that learning never stops. You're always learning, you're always developing. Life and business, it's not getting to a sort of end destination necessarily. It's just growing. It's like a science experiment. You try something, does that work? If not, okay, well, try something else. And so yes, that takes me to where I am now, and yeah, predominantly work sort of combining personal development and well-being to help people live happier, more fulfilling lives, and whatever that looks like for them.
It's interesting when you say like rugby played a part in my time in my early days. So I was about 23, but it's funny how really rugby pulls you together and helps you with many life lessons through
Yeah,
that as well.
absolutely. It's a community, and that's the thing. It's I was certainly never the world's greatest rugby player, but that didn't matter, And the point was is that I had a group of people that supported each other, worked together for a common goal, really to get the game out of the way so we could go and have a drink. But and I actually really enjoyed that sort of teamwork and being part of something. And I think for many of us in life, I think it's where can we recreate those things? Where can I build my next community? And that doesn't have to be in your geographical location, could be online, could be anywhere, but a place of like-minded people that sort of help each other.
Yeah. And it's again, it's that part where you go through these stages of life that you hit the blockers, you've got to push through it, and you have the people, we just talked about that before going live today, is having that support structure around you, from family to friends to colleagues to people who you work with, etc., is having that support structure that can literally, what a lot of people forget to do is talk. They forget to actually say something that's going on. They hold it until it gets to the worst moment and it's too late.
Yeah, and you set me up nicely there for the link to the business name. Is always worth talking, and that's the thing. I think whenever we keep so many things inside of us, and we spin them round and round in our heads, and they become bigger and bigger and bigger. And the benefit I see working with clients just in talking, before we do any work together, really, just giving them that space as a sort of compassionate, non-judgmental space where they can just let everything out, say what they're thinking, feeling. It's really cathartic, just being heard and being listened to, and saying things out loud, and all of a sudden it doesn't quite seem so big and so scary,
Because it doesn't, when you start talking about it, you go, oh, actually, no, I can handle this now. And
yeah,
it gives you the building blocks to move forward on. And that actually lines up quite nicely, because it's great when you hear that word talking names came from the talking aspect of it all. But since starting your business and coming from that sort of ilk as me, really, business development, sales, that sort of area, what challenges have you had in the last sort of year or so in creating your business and coming out of that environment? And did it lead to an achievement as such within your business as well, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably like a lot of people, you start a business and you can be really good at what you do, but the challenge is building a business and actually building a business and being a coach in my case are two very different things. And I was possibly guilty at first of I can't remember, was it a Kevin Costner film, Field of Dreams or something, I think it was, when he said build it and they will come, and I built it and nobody came, and it was like, where is everyone? And it's that remembering actually you do need to find a way of connecting with people, and so I think that was certainly a challenge early days, and the changing that round was things like the RBC, you know, creating a network where you can share who you are, what you do, how you can help people. But also, I think, you know, reconnecting with my own network. You know, there's a really good coach, or a couple of good coaches called Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin, and they co-wrote a book about using our existing network as well. You know, so everything comes from a conversation. So really, for me, turning that challenge into an achievement was just finding ways of having more conversations. And you know, that's the way all business starts.
Very true. It's so, again, it's that part where you just mentioned there. It's that little conversation,
Mm.
but little conversations, many that you
Yeah.
have with individuals, little stop gaps and
Mm.
chatting with them and seeing what they're going through, and
Yeah.
asking that question: How are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
going through at the minute? Do you find
Yeah.
that as well? You have had a lot of conversations like that.
Absolutely. And what's the business is called worth talking, it could also be called worth listening. You know, because I think hearing where are people having challenges, whether that's in their life or their business, you know, or their families or friends. So understanding what people are struggling to overcome, taking any sort of common themes about things that people want to achieve. You know, I think that's so yeah, listening absolutely is sort of vital to you know, finding out where you can go and where you can take your business.
It's for, again, it's that point that people forget about, that so much active listening and listening to what's going on in that
Yeah.
conversation, react to it. We've got a couple of people online with us as well on LinkedIn. We've got Tony Gordon, good to see you, Tony, and we've got Louisa Stewart. She just said Simon's a fabulous person to talk to. Laugh
Oh,
out
she's
loud. So
always
thank
been
you
a
for
great
sharing
liar.
that. £5 in the post to Louisa.
Absolutely, yes. Bake box on its way.
Big box indeed. So over the past few years, though, we've had a lot going on, and we've had the likes of working from home, and
Mm.
we've embraced both areas. But within your business, it's working with people on a face-to-face point of view. How have you adapted your business now? Because I've talked to many people about this in a virtual
Mm.
world. Do you embrace both sides, or is one more
Yeah,
than the other?
yeah, absolutely. I think rather than be sort of too prescriptive with how people can work with me, I try and co-create something that works for somebody else. And initially, the business was very much face to face. Then, obviously, through COVID, it became online,
Yeah.
and that was a great opportunity because actually, you know, as long as you had a Wi-Fi connection, you could work from anywhere, and so that was fun. But you know, I do miss, or I did miss the kind of face to face as well. So now really it's about what works for people. So I offer online sessions. I also offer face-to-face sessions, but also offer things called walk and talk sessions. And I found, you know, whether you're going through a personal challenge, you know, whether that's going through a divorce or rebuilding your life after a divorce, or some well-being challenges, whatever it may be, or whether you're a director of a business, you know, an executive in a business, getting out of your normal environment, getting out into the fresh air, you know, getting some exercise, getting some daylight, all those things can help massively, you know, and certainly for me, I think walking is one of those areas where I find real calm, you know, as long as I'm not going up too steep a hill. But yeah, exactly that. Yes, yeah, and so yeah, I find walking, I find that calms my brain a bit, slows things down. And like I say, I've just found it's really helpful for people getting into a different environment. And also, I think there's a very different dynamic on a walk and talk session. So if we're online together, we're kind of looking at each other. If we're face to face in the traditional, you know, sort of therapy setup, you're kind of looking at each other. When you're doing a walk and talk session, you're walking alongside each other. And there's something in that we're on a journey together, and you know, we're both working towards this goal, or to overcome this challenge. You know, we're on this together, and so there's something, you know, I really enjoy about that. And you know, admittedly, it's a bit more challenging where it's hammering it down with rain. But what's that saying? There's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing or something like that.
Very true. I think it was Billy Connolly said that as well.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, I had that yesterday when I was down in London. It was sunny in one part, and then it was 30-degree heat, and then it was 20 degrees raining on a beach. So it's just like, what?
Yeah.
How does that work? we had
Yeah.
the wrong clothing completely on that day as well. Thanks for sharing that, Simon. It's great to see how, you know, how virtually embraces, and also how you embrace that within
Mm.
your talks as well. And I think it's these little groups together, these small little units in regards to being out and about and
Yeah.
getting the fresh air in your lungs, and
Yeah.
you know, to walk around a park, you know,
Yeah.
really helps, or even doing a running club or something, whatever
Mm.
you do exercise wise,
Yeah.
helps for you to break down those barriers as such as well.
Definitely. And I think, you know, I mean, we'll talk about some other sort of tips and things later on, but I think just as a general rule for life, you know, getting out, getting into fresh air, getting some exercise, and you know, exercise doesn't have to look like a 25-mile run or a climbing Ben Nevis or you know, whatever it is. It can be just get out for a walk, a cycle, you know, do anything that you know gets the blood pumping. Make love if you want to, you know. Probably don't do that outside, but you know, anything that gets you moving, and it's so good for you. You know, I think I don't know about you, but I very rarely regret having gone and done some exercise. You know, and you know, for me, I've struggled a bit over the last year or so with long COVID, and that's affected what I can do. But I can still do something. You know, I can still go for a walk and things like that. And I like I say, I never regret doing it. Always feel better afterwards. Feel more creative. You know, it's great.
It's even during the daytime when we spend a lot of time behind computer screens, or sitting at desks or whatever, or standing up like we are in our studios or offices. But
Mm.
just grabbing that half an hour,
Yeah.
everybody can grab half an hour during the day, and if
Oh
it's
yeah.
a walk
Yeah.
around the block, or it's a walk to the shop or somewhere, or
Yeah.
just to sit in the back garden, you know, there's always something
Absolutely.
you do in half an hour.
Yeah, and you know, for me to walk around the block, for example, takes me, you know, just over 10 minutes. So even if I always give myself enough space between calls that I can just go and clear my head,
Yeah.
get some fresh air, and then come back and I'm fresh again. You know, and it really does make a big difference.
That's so important, and that leads. It's like we've rehearsed this, right? It's teed this up lovely for the next question that comes in. And thanks for engaging as well. Just to recognize what's going on in the group chat there. We've got Louisa and we've got Tony Gordon popping some bits and pieces in. Thank you very much for your continued support from both of you as well. That leads in nicely to our top tips, and I always ask my guests their top 3 golden nugget top tips from their sort of industry, and especially from your background and where you are right now, from in regards to that's really poignant right now is mental health awareness.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, we've mentioned a few things there already that people can take away with them, but what are your top 3 tips for somebody who's going through that stage at the minute that you could say, listen, give these 3 things a try?
Yeah, so I've exercised a little bit of creative license here, and I've got 3 things from a wellbeing point of view, and I've also just added another 3 things which are more business focused, but do actually feed into your wellbeing as well. But yes, I mean the first one I've got is as we're just talking about is getting outside, exercising each day if you can, but equally not beating yourself up if you don't manage to do it. You know, that's okay. So. If you can get outside, you know, get some daylight, get some fresh air. Doesn't matter, as I say, whether it's walking, cycling, running, whatever it is, you know, playing badminton, tennis, table tennis, doesn't matter. You know, just finding a way to get outside, get some fresh air, and get some exercise. So that would be my my first tip, and you know, because that feeds into your physical health and your mental health. Journaling, I think, you know, quite a number of people talk about journaling now. Probably years ago, people just called it writing a diary. But for me, what I find really helpful at the end of each day is just writing down 3 things I'm grateful for each day. And it could be the fact that it's sunny. You know, it could be the fact that my partner made me a cup of coffee this morning, or somebody held a door open for me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be some big thing. You know, it's just finding 3 things in each day that you feel grateful for. And you know, could be more, could be less, doesn't matter, but just finding, you know, typically 3 things for me. Also write down what went well. So, you know, just trying to create positive sort of feelings, positive emotions. So what's gone well for me in that day. I also write down what I want to achieve tomorrow. And then every so often I'll also add in, I just call it a brain dump really. So it's just writing down anything that's on my mind. And as we were saying right at the beginning, just that process of taking things out of your head and whether you write them down or you speak them out loud, that can be helpful. And then I think for me, there's then less opportunity to go to bed and start stewing over things and worrying about things, because I've addressed them before I've gone to bed, through the journaling. So that's tip number 2. And tip number 3, I've got now, a lot of my wisdom comes from Kung Fu Panda. I feel like
Love it. Great.
I should be quoting something like, Barack Obama or something like that. But I find Kung Fu Panda comes up with some absolute pearls of wisdom. So, and what this is about for me is about living in the present. And there's a saying in that film which is yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today's a gift, and that's why they call it the present. And that really resonates with me. I really like that. And the thing is, I think, feelings of depression, feeling low can come from looking at the past. I think feelings of anxiety can come from worrying about the future. So if you can keep yourself centered in now, in the present, I think that's really helpful in life, And so yeah, that's my 3 well-being tips. And a bit of creative license to say 3 business tips that I found really, really helpful, but also applied from a well-being point of view. What I found really helpful is focusing on the process, not the outcome. So it's great having an outcome goal, whatever that may be for each of us, but focusing on the outcome doesn't necessarily help you work towards it. So for me, what are the processes that I can focus on to help me take me towards that goal? What are the steps that I can take? What's the very first step I can take? And then what's the next step, So I found that very helpful. Focus on what you can control and influence, not what's outside of it. So that's a very famous book by Stephen Covey. You've probably read it yourself, I should think. But yeah, just keep your focus on what you can control and influence. If it's outside of it, try not to spend your time and energy worrying about it. So I found that helpful. And also living to your integrity, being the person that you want to be. I think that's really important. So, if I want to have a successful business, okay, well, what does that look like? How would I behave if I had that thing? Had those things. And 3 values to me that are really important to being compassionate, being non-judgmental, and being kind. And everything I go into each day, each meeting, each phone call, each interaction, even if it's with the kids, and ranting and raving about something, okay, keep those 3 things front and center, live to that integrity, and I find that steers you pretty well and you don't go too far wrong.
Thank you. I mean, it's nice to. I mean, I'm just laughing because Louisa's put something in the group chat there as well, which I know you might have to see. She's just gone, "Oh wow, I feel like I've missed the Kung Fu Panda philosophy." So everybody out there's watched this now is going to go to Kung Fu Panda and watch some of these little quotes that are in there, little golden nuggets that are in there. So
forget Socrates and Plato and all those sort of people. It's Kung Fu Panda. That's the one.
So great. Remember, everybody, the great outdoors, number 1. Journal where you are and what you're doing, and stay in the present and identify what you're doing individually as well. And I think your integrity is so important. And those three little areas are people forget about them. I mean, in the group chat again, reminding that it's never too busy to do a walk, to go for a stroll, to take time out of the day just for a cup of coffee and switch everything off. It's decompress, brain dump.
Yeah, and it's the kind of, I think we can all say, I haven't got time to do that. But actually, by creating that time, you become more productive in the rest of your day, because you're freshening up your brain, you're giving your brain a rest, getting out some fresh air.
Yeah.
You'll be way more productive in the afternoon, it's so yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
But it's so important. Another thing you mentioned on there before, many business owners, people who are in that silo working for themselves, the response I get from many is that we haven't got enough time. The time poor. It's everybody's in the same, I've got to rush, I've got to get this done, I've got to get that done. So when are you taking time out for you and where you are at the minute? Many business owners forget about doing that. I think it's so important.
And it's remembering that you're in control.
Yeah.
And I think so many of the time we can feel like we're a passenger in life. You know, all these things are happening to us, and it's actually okay. Well, let's get out the back seat and back into the front seat, preferably behind the wheel, and yeah, and just say, okay, well, what do I want to create? You know,
Yeah.
the world isn't going to end if this doesn't happen or that doesn't happen, or very rarely, depending on your job. Maybe if you're president of the United States, it might, but you know what I mean. I think, you know, you're never going to. You can't make more time. There is only so much time in the day. But if you don't consciously create time for those things that are important, then they won't happen. So it's yeah.
Very important. And again, it comes on to where I like to ask about as well, is that we talk about business, we talk about personally, we talked about people that are around us.
Mm,
And many people don't bridge the gap on this and look at self-reflection. You know,
mm,
you've mentioned it in that the golden nugget side of things, as well as thinking, okay, so what do you do for your self-reflection
mm.
to take time out for you, Simon? Is it for business, or do you have a balance between business and personal for you?
Yeah, I mean, so for both. I mean, for business as a coach, I work with coaches myself. We do something called supervision. So, you know, you don't discuss people's names and things, specifics like that, but you talk about what you're working on. I also do self-reflection after sessions. So, how did that session go? Is there anything I think I could have done a bit better? Is there something I could have prepared? Could I have talked less? You know, could I have listened a bit more? You know, so I think that's vitally important to grow as an individual. Is that piece of self-reflection. It is very, very important. So, but also again, I think for me, getting outside, going for a walk, that's where all of a sudden things can calm down for me, and I can, you know, things just start popping into my head, and so I think that kind of time and space to reflect and just to be, you know, I think things just come to you in those sort of scenarios. You know, that's really important. And but also I think in you know, if you want your life to change, it's very rare that your life can change unless you do. And I don't mean that in any kind of judgmental way that people need to change. But what I've found for me is that, you know, there's often in life I thought all my problems were external. You know, I'll be happier when I've got a bit more money, and you know, I've got a nice big house and a car and holiday and all these sorts of things. But actually, none of those things really can happen unless you get on top of yourself. You know, whether that's improving your relationship with yourself, accepting yourself, you know, being the person that you are. But also, I think to create that foundation, and what I found is by actually turning my focus on myself and working on myself, then the external sort of things started to fall into place. But it wasn't until I did that work on myself that happened. You know, so I think, yeah, the self-reflection I think is an incredibly helpful sort of thing to do.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it before, is that sort of, we have a lot of clutter that goes on in our heads, and
Mm,
sometimes there's so much noise going on, you cannot hear your own self thoughts and where you are. Other
mm,
things get in the way so much. We've
mm.
all been in that position many
Yeah,
times, and I think that's so true. Just disconnecting and
mm,
just, you know,
definitely.
yeah,
And part of self-reflection actually is almost planning as well. You know,
yeah,
what is it I'm trying to achieve? You know, and again, what's the outcome I'm looking to achieve, and how can I achieve that? And that helps give you direction. But yeah, no, I think the self-reflection piece, yeah, vitally important.
yeah. 100%. And just to say thank you, Tony, you've mentioned it in the group chat there. Thank you for both for a great live, and especially Simon for his fantastic nuggets of wisdom. So thanks for commenting
Thank
on
you.
there for Tony as
Very
well.
kind.
Anybody else is watching as well, please feel free to drop in your comments into the chat area on LinkedIn, because we are on LinkedIn Live right about now as well, and we'll be doing these shows on LinkedIn Live going forward. Now, with everything we've talked about, Simon, as well, what's next for you? What's around the corner? What's around that next door of opportunity for you? See, it happens
Right.
perfectly. The phone goes up at the right time.
That comes down to preparation, doesn't
That's
it? Apologies for that.
quite all right.
um, yeah, what's next for me?
Yeah.
Really, it's sort of carry on creating the life that I want for myself and those around me. You know, and that's not just about a financial sort of place. You know, that it's just creating the life that I want to live, doing the things that I want to do with the people that I want to be with, and creating that sort of space and opportunity. And so yeah, that's really next. The key thing for me is finding ways of having conversations. I always say to people when I start talking to people about working together, I always offer a complimentary coaching session, because I think it's very hard to make any sort of choices and things like that without having the experience of it. So I think what's next for me is very simply finding ways of having more conversations.
Yeah, I think that's and again, having the opportunity to chat with them, to see where they are, brilliant way of doing it as well. I think that it's exciting to hear where you go forward next, and getting out about, especially the items we spoke about before coming on live for the show as well. Another quick shout out. We've got Stephen Allen just joined us there now. Really great conversations, guys, and great to hear from Simon as always. Are you paying them money? Right. So
I think I'm going to need to get an evening job in Tesco's to pay all the.
Just speak to Jennifer. We'll organise big boxes.
Yes. Okay. Good idea. Good idea.
Thanks very much. So for everybody who's watching and for listening today, and they've heard, right, I want to book in a time with Simon. I want to go and meet him and have a conversation walking around a specific park, or just to divulge where they are at the minute. How can they make contact with you, and how can you start that little conversation with them?
Yeah, so two ways really. Can email me directly, which is simon@worthtalking.co.uk. You can contact me over my website, which is www.worthtalking.co.uk. And on my website, there's a link to book a call, so we can do that. Or yeah, just send me an email, and we can have a chat through there.
So I literally just put in the group chat there on LinkedIn. It'll go into as well, so it's in there for you. I'll repost it later on as well for Simon to connect with him, and also his LinkedIn profile, so you can engage with him as well. Simon, thank you so much for today, and thank you for joining me. It's always a pleasure for me. What's really important to myself is delving into people's business, their journey. It's either personally or for business or their role, etc. as well. And thank you so much for sharing that with me today.
No, thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
No, absolutely superb, Simon. Look forward to catch up again very, very soon. And for everybody who's watching and listening on LinkedIn Live and on the YouTube channel for Revitalise Connecting People, don't forget you can download it. You can watch it later on over a brew or two. Or stay informed. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and Revitalise Connected People to keep on top of what's coming up next. There's over 100 videos and interviews in there with many, many powerful connections, just like Simon from Worth Talking. That's a bit of a mouthful. Got my teeth fell out again on that one there. But thank you very much to everybody who's been engaging in the chat and also joining us today on these LinkedIn Lives and Revitalise Meets. Stay tuned for many more interviews coming very soon. And if you are a business owner or someone in a key role that would like to be on the show, all you need to do is reach out to me by going to the Revitalise website, revitalise-connect.com, and you can send me a direct message and we can have a chat, a little conversation, and get you booked in to have a conversation about your business journey and your top tips from your industry. From me and from Simon, we hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. As always, keep connecting, everybody. Take care. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.